In the Name of the Rebellion, Parts 1 and 2 are Star Wars Rebels at its best. Actually, I should say more specifically, Episode 4 was Rebels at its best. So let's get right into my spoiler review. One thing I was really looking forward to learning about during this episode was just how much Saw Gerrera knew about kyber crystals. And it certainly seemed like he knew a great deal. And I was surprised that he mentioned actually a super weapon in the episode. I was also looking forward to Kanan and Ezra's discussion about Yoda's quote, "It's how we fight that's important." And I knew that it would play some sort of role in Ezra's development as he came into conflict with Saw. I just wish at the end Kanan and Ezra could have revisited that quote. The end of the episode, that is. But perhaps that's coming in next episode. The third thing I was really interested in seeing in this episode was how Sabine would act after being in charge on Mandalore. And I'm happy to say I didn't feel like she completely went back to her former character. At one point she showed great pride in her actions on Mandalore, and I felt like she was strong and determined throughout the story. I'm moving on now to some pros and cons of the episode. I think the first and most obvious strength to the episodes are the connections to the movies. Seeing Yavin Base in episode 3 and the various Rogue One connections in episode 4, whether it was the mention of Jedha by the prisoners or when Krennic is mentioned by the Imperial officer, it felt like this episode was happening just before the time of the Rogue One film, as it should. It was also cool seeing the U-Wing and the Death Troopers. I was very interested in the female Death Trooper character in particular and hope we get to see her again. Though am I the only one that feels like the Rebels Death Troopers are shorter than the actual version we get in Rogue One? But moving on, one of the disappointments of the episode was that we didn't see a lot of Two-Tubes. It would have been cool to see him in action shooting troopers and working with Saw. And it really would have been good to see other parts of Saw's crew on the mission, since we know from the books he had a lot of people working for him. And talking about Saw Gerrera, I thought this was one of the best performances of the character. I tweeted out earlier in the day that it was just the right mix of crazy and kick-ass. I thought they really nailed Saw Gerrera. It felt like in Rogue One the character was over the top, he was kind of too crazy, and in season 3 he just didn't have the right mix. But this time around they really nailed it. Another minor problem I had with the episode was that episode 3 was all setup. It was just setting up the rest of the season from Yavin and of course episode 4. But really, that's a minor issue. But for my last point, I'm going to end on a positive, and that was just how much suspense I felt during this episode. I mean, we know that Saw, Sabine, and Ezra are going to survive the episode. So it was pretty awesome that I felt in suspense at all. The fact that there were prisoners involved, I was so interested in what was going to happen to the kyber crystal, if it was going to be destroyed, if they were going to be able to compensate it, if we were going to see Krennic maybe. And I really wanted to know how much they would discover about the Death Star. All of those things really kept me in suspense and wanting to watch the rest of the episode. Also, we got some nice Ezra Bean moments as Ezra and Sabine were saving each other from falling off the satellite, supporting each other, working together. We had that one moment where Ezra opens the door for Sabine in a gentlemanly way. And of course, my last point here is that it wasn't actually the planet Adu that they were visiting that were the big satellite. I thought that was a solid theory. It would have been pretty cool, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So question of the day, guys, what was your favorite part of this episode? Very interested to hear. Was it one of the mentions of Rogue One? Was it seeing Yavin Base in the animated series? Let me know in the comments below. Also, guys, remember, I've just set up a Facebook page specifically for Star Wars Rebels Force Within fans, so go check that out. I'll have it linked down in the comments below. And as always, if you haven't already, check out the Force Within TV channel. Lots of great Rebels content there, from theories, news, as well as, who is going to die in Season 4. I'll have my last video linked up here, which was who do you think is going to die at the beginning of this season, or sorry, the first half of this season. So check that out. And as always, guys, may the Force be with you.